In the remaining 10 or 11 games, can Chelsea salvage a good season? And what is a good season?
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
Yes friends, what's poppin'? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well. I really do hope that Chelsea, things aren't the way we hoped they'd be. Though we got 11 games left in the Premier League, at times we look better and maybe we can climb the Premier League table. Who knows? Maybe even win the FA Cup. In today's video, I'm not going to talk about the FA Cup. We're in a semi-final, of course, against Manchester City, who are very good. If you beat them, you'll fancy yourself against almost certainly Man United in the final, but I'm not actually going to talk about the FA Cup today. I'm going to talk just about the Premier League. Currently, we're not in the top half of it. I believe we're in 11th place. But where are we going to finish on the Premier League table this season? Can we still qualify for Europe? We're going to talk about it a little bit today. And also, what were the expectations for Chelsea before the season kicked off? Were they realistic? Were they unrealistic? Where are we coming from last season? And where can we finish? We'll look a little bit at the fixtures as well. I was going to preview the Burnley game, but it's Burnley and yeah, I'll of course do a match review after that game, so keep it locked to Football Therapy. I've actually got very, very fast internet now as well, so my match reviews should be up almost instantly. Well, as soon as I've filmed them, of course. But yeah, very, very fast. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for supporting the content. If you like it, drop a like, let me know. It takes a millisecond of your existence and it's a nice thing for me. Do consider subscribing if you want to, hit the bell if you choose to, and let's get into it. Oh yeah, quick reminder, for those of you who are a member of the channel, I've just filmed and uploaded the latest episode of Your Comments. It's been a little while since I've uploaded, so apologies to the members, but I do try and get one out once a week. You know, that's generally what I'm trying to do. So if you want to become a member, it's like a couple of pounds a month. You get a little badge and you get the opportunity to get interactive with me, asking questions and giving me your comments and thoughts for the Your Comments video series. Alright, let's talk Chelsea. So before we talk about where we can go from here, let's just highlight where we are coming from. Last season was hella dramatic and historically bad. Of course, we got eliminated in both domestic cups in the first round. Both were Man City away, unfortunately for Graham Potter. We went through a multitude of managers. We had a bloated dressing room. If you look at the finished Premier League table on the screen now, we finished 12th. That's like prime Crystal Palace place. And I think maybe the most sickening part of this is we scored 38 goals, which, yes, is an average of a goal a game. Chelsea Football Club, 12th place, a goal a game. And we didn't even have any memorable performances, maybe Dortmund in the Champions League, but generally this season I could name a bunch of high profile good performances from Chelsea. Now, of course, as it stands, we're in 11th, just one place above 12th, but there's scope for improvement. We've already scored, I believe, 10 more goals than the entirety of last season, and you'd bet we'd score maybe, I don't know, maybe another 20 goals plus for the rest of the campaign, which would mean we're on nearly double, well, maybe we get near double the goals scored of last season, which is wild if you think about it. Comparatively, of course, we have reached a cup final. It was very frustrating the way we lost, but we've done that to death. But I don't want to be one of those people that says, oh, it's an achievement to reach a cup final. But there is something about that. It shows players can go through a tournament right to Wembley. And we've already at Wembley again in the semi. It's not very Chelsea to be like, oh, we've reached a final. That's the achievement done. And I generally resent saying it. But I'd rather, have a cup run than not have a cup run, That makes sense. But we also need to talk about the squad. Of course, it's a lot smaller than last season. We sorted out a lot of problems in the transfer window in the summer, alleviated ourselves of a lot of wages, got rid of some players, loaned some players that just weren't integrating into the squad and didn't make sense. And generally, I think there was a lot of good work done in the market, especially with outgoings as well as there was with decent loans in the January market. Before we talk about the fact how we've underwhelmed and we can speculate how well we can finish, let's talk about the expectation, because I looked at a Goal.com article. I assume it was Nizar Kinsella, but I didn't look at the journalist, and it was looking at betting odds. You know, there were things like top goal scorer, and Nkunku was like by far and away the favourite. And actually, Nico Jackson was second because he did score a few goals last season as well for Villarreal. But Chelsea were odds on to finish in the top four, and I think that's largely because we got the Caicedo, you know, we got some other players as well that like Nkunku was joining, you know, Nkunku and Caicedo, massively high profile. You know, we just signed £60 million Romeo Lavia. Surely he's going to help and be really good because Liverpool wanted him as well. But the truth is, guys, basically for the whole season, well, literally for the whole season, you're not going to have Lavia or Nkunku. Oh yeah, Kepa's going to leave out of nowhere when Pochettino wanted him as the first choice keeper. And by the way, Sanchez you're going to have for number one for a while, but then that's not going to work, so then you're going to put Georgi Petrovic in. There's going to be very little continuity along the back and loads of injuries across the whole team, so you're going to have no sustained chemistry at all between any players. Basically, we weren't to forecast this disaster that was going to happen. Now, I think Pochettino is a really highly rated coach still in Europe, and of course him coming to Chelsea, and Chelsea having young talented players, and of course pre-season we didn't know, you know, Chukwuemeka, Nkunku, Lavia, everyone was going to get injured, Reece James, Ben Chilwell out for a while, so they were like, yeah, everyone's fit, Chelsea have got a great team, a good manager, they're going to finish in the top four. That was what speculated. But of course, we all knew what followed. Now, I think also, despite the fanfare and excitement with Chelsea because of the signings, because of Pochettino, I just don't think it was realistic, you know, that we were going to suddenly be amazing. I think it's just so much transitional stuff to get through, and young inexperienced players, I think it was just like really fanciful, you know. And the fact is, we weren't like a 6th or 7th place team or an 8th place team, which we might end up this season, which would represent progress. We were a 12th place team. 12th place. Scoring a goal a game. Many people now are looking at Chelsea like, yeah, of course they're there. Look at where they were last season, look at where they are now, look at what they've had to deal with. This is about par, you know, non-Chelsea fans or whatever. Chelsea fans will demand excellence and always will, but people who analyse maybe from a more neutral perspective are like, yeah, it's about right. You know, they scored a goal a game last season, they finished 12th, they're scoring more this season, they're having growing pains, they've dealt with a lot of injuries. This is about right. Look, I'm not saying I'm happy with it, I'm very unhappy with it. And again, like I always say, I would not cry if we sacked Pochettino tonight, although I'd find it very peculiar. I was listening to the Straight Out of Cobham podcast, they were like, Liam Twomey, he says he's been flip-flopping on Pochettino, says, look, he says no point of sacking him unless you bring in the next generation of like Guardiola level coach. Because of the job at Chelsea, he doesn't see a reason to sack him, rather. I'm kind of indifferent. I just feel like over time the players need to grow up a bit and learn each other more. A few players need to come back from injury. 1 or 2 senior players need to be signed and will probably be golden. And of course, Pochettino needs to recognise we can't concede anywhere near as many goals as this. But it has been tough for him. Like, I do have sympathy for the guy. He hasn't helped himself out in loads of instances, but it's just been an insane and mental job this season. With, like I say, more goals scored, the underlying numbers trend upwards in most metrics for Chelsea this season, despite having key injuries, etc. But he still frustrated me with some of the stuff he said, some of the decisions. So, not the perfect coach by a long shot. But where can we finish? How good can it be? And again, this is away from the FA Cup. This is in the league. Well, let's take a look at the Premier League table at the moment. Sickening, really, seeing Arsenal and Liverpool up there. As it stands, Chelsea are in 11th place, the bottom half of the Premier League table, though it looks like we won't get relegated now. We do have a game in hand over the clubs above us, and should we win that, we will be in 9th place, leapfrogging both Newcastle and Wolves. So that will leave us with 10 games to go in 9th place, with the same points of Brighton and 5 points of 6th place Manchester United, which is wild. Can Chelsea make up 5 points in the remaining 10 games of the season? Well, we're about to look at the fixtures. I should say that game in hand is against Tottenham, but it's against Tottenham at home. Of course, they'll want to seek revenge after that 4-1 or 2, what was it? We battered them away when they had 2 players sent off, basically, and played that suicidal high line. I actually think we'd have a good chance of beating them again at home, even with a full complement of Tottenham players. They, of course, lost 3-0 recently to Fulham. I reckon they've just got this suicidal high line that would still suit Nico Jackson, Mudryk, players like that, and if it gets postponed to a point when Nkunku's back, that would be nice as well, So I think we could beat Tottenham at home, to be honest, and that would put us in the position where we're 5 points of 6th, which would be a strong position to try and chase down Manchester United and the clubs above us. Look, Newcastle, Wolves and Brighton, I think we can overtake them if we find momentum, if players, have the pressure off their shoulders a little bit. Like I said, we've seen some high profile performances this season against really strong opposition. They just need to keep it up and keep the belief. But there is good feelings at the moment. And I think in terms of morale, the international break has done us good. Noni Madueke must be feeling king of the world. Of course, Palmer wasn't utilised, but I mean, he's been trending in an immense direction regardless, so that's kind of okay. Even players like Cesare Casadei scoring for the under-21s in Italy as well, that's all positive as well. Of course, Mykhailo Mudryk scoring that goal to qualify Ukraine for the Euros after generally being in pretty decent form for Chelsea anyway. Maybe things are slowly settling in terms of like morale, belief, and just form, right? So let's take a look at Chelsea's fixtures and see if we can ballpark a finish. Let's just say we beat Tottenham and we're 5 points off Manchester United. Of course, we play Burnley tomorrow, and you'd have to say that's 3 points. And then we play Man United at home on the 4th of April, which I actually think will be a massive game, because if we can beat them there, that will put us in a really strong position to hopefully eventually leapfrog them and qualify for a European place. And if we win that game in hand, we're suddenly only 2 points behind them, which seems absolutely insane. Then we've got Sheffield United, so that's a welcome sight, seeing both Sheffield United and Burnley still to play. Sheffield United are by far the worst team in the league, and you'd have to say that's absolutely 3 points for Chelsea again. We've got Everton at home. Obviously, we always play bad at Goodison Park, or historically have often done so, but I do think Chelsea at home, Everton aren't as robust as we thought they'd be later in the season under Sean Dyche. I think we can win that as well. Brighton away, which of course has been postponed. That would be really tough. You never know what you're going to get with Brighton. Sometimes they're like high-octane, exciting football. Sometimes they get slapped up 4-0 by Roma. So it is away. Of course, it's a peculiar derby now with us constantly going to them for staff and players. So maybe a draw. Now, Arsenal and Chelsea is going to be tough. Obviously, everyone will make Arsenal massive favourites to maybe batter Chelsea. We completely outplayed them at home, but we let them back into the game with that Rob Sanchez pass, and we turned a comfortable 2-0 into a 2-all. It will be interesting because Chelsea might be able to get fired up and try and ruin their title charge. So anything can happen, but of course, we're most likely to lose that game. Aston Villa are a tough one to call. Of course, they also play a really high line often, but they're a bit more canny, I think. It's really tough because, of course, we recently beat them quite handily, but it is away at Villa Park. They do have great players. Possibly a draw. I do think we should be beating West Ham at home, but again, they've had a little bit of an upturn in form under Moyes when they were playing so awful for ages. And away at Forest and home to Bournemouth, despite Bournemouth being really good, I think that's 6 points as well. So I'm going to tally it up in my head now. Let's just say 3 points for Burnley, 1 for United, 3 for Sheffield United, so that's 7. I'm going to go 8, 9, 10 with Everton, 11 to Brighton. I'm going to say a draw with Arsenal will be hopeful to 12 points. And I think we'll get 10 points in the remaining 4 games. So that's 22 points. 22 points plus a win at home against Tottenham. That would see us end the season on 63 points. Which isn't bad and almost set. Well, that qualifies you for Europe one way or another, right? There was a time in the Premier League where 63 points or 62 points, early mid-60s, would get you into the Champions League of certain seasons, I believe. So that would be a massive improvement from last season in terms of just being awful, not scoring any goals, finishing the bottom half of the table, going to Wembley in 2 different competitions, qualifying for Europe. That's what I would put out to you guys. I want to make this video and say, what do you think is a successful season? If you say League Cup final, say FA Cup semi-final, say we get eliminated by City, and the top 7 finish, which I think might get Europa League now, depending on the coefficient, 6th or 7th. Europa League, a cup final, and a semi-final as well, with way more goals scored. Is that an improvement? Is that an improvement with like Mudryk gaining confidence, Cole Palmer becoming amazing, all these things in between? Could you end the season and look at that and go, that's good? Because for me, that's pretty excellent. If you take a deep breath, have a big boy conversation, talk about where we were, talk about how hard the job was. And yes, the manager's made loads of mistakes, you know, whatever. But considering all the injuries and stuff and whatever, I'd be very happy with that if we qualified for the Europa League, and who knows what will happen in the FA Cup. Most of all, and I've said this before, most of all, I just want to see the players develop. I want to see Mudryk score more goals. I want to see Noni being utilised. I want to see Cole Palmer breaking records. I want to see Nico Jackson developing. I want to see Caicedo and Enzo looking more and more comfortable next to each other. I want to see Reece James and Nkunku come back before the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? All that stuff represents positivity for me in a good season. So let me know what you think. Comment down below. I'm very keen to hear your thoughts on this. I'll thank you again for liking and subscribing, and I do hope to see you back here very soon. Alright, peace.